Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 258 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where we hope you won't leave us behind on the road to be found by orcs.
Or loot our corpses before you go, for that matter. Please.
Please.
But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, whose face has only occasionally been described as pale but beautiful with an elvish beauty, Alan Sisto.
Apparently I need a little oil of old way, Sean.
It would help.
For a little season 1 throwback.
You get it a little more often, yeah.
Not to mention the light of Earendil to help me look my best. That's better than those little ring lights that you get for Zoom meetings.
It's all about the lighting, really. You really need the lighting.
And you got to get my good side, which is actually when I'm looking the other direction. But folks, tonight we are going to walk with Sam as he takes his heaviest and most reluctant steps in the second part of the last chapter of Book 4, The Choices of Master Samwise.
Sam is really in a tough place tonight. And no mistake, as he might say.
Indeed.
But here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
We dive into the details, point out connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we also make sure we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
And we know you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's reading, it's time for fan favorite and family-friendly Philology Fair.
Well, that was a fun, fabulous, I don't know, something that alliterates.
We're running out of alliterative terms that begin with the letter F.
I've still got some F words in my vocabulary, but I don't think you want to hear them.
Well, that's why I said family-friendly.
Right.
But also, this isn't charnel, so I think that's the other reason why this is family-friendly tonight.
Yeah.
Also, food-friendly.
Honestly, I'm not sure how family-friendly this one is tonight, actually.
Oh, that's true. We are talking about an orc word, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, but let's not give it away.
Not an orc word. A word an orc uses.
So in this episode, we are going to see another heartwarming example of exactly the type of kind, friendly, amiable conversation that the orcs are accustomed to when they speak to each other.
On a very special.
It is. It's going to uplift. There's going to be some warm fuzzies here in this philology fair.
I'm thinking of like the orc version of the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just wholesome stuff.
It's Hall Orc. Because they're kind, friendly folk.
They are.
And when they're not calling each other, I don't know, Buggeronk, which means cesspool, or Pushdug, which means dung filth.
I like that redundancy. Yeah.
I know, right? When they're not calling each other charming things like that in the Black speech, well, they tend to use Westron in just as nasty and unpleasant a way as they would their own tongue.
That's a good point. As Tolkien writes in Appendix F, orcs and trolls spoke as they would, without love of words or things. And their language was actually more degraded and filthy than I have shown it, which kind of is like our podcast in some ways. It is more degraded and filthy than you hear. That's all I can say.
That's right.
He also says in the same appendix that orcs had no language of their own, but took what they could of other tongues and perverted it to their own liking. Yet they made only brutal jargons, scarcely sufficient even for their own needs, unless it were for curses and abuse. So, yeah, they're going to call each other nasty things. It's just what they do, and it's the only words they have, apparently.
That's it. They're orcs. That's what they're going to do. That's what they think about. That's what they're going to communicate in.
Yeah.
Now, surprisingly, one of the tamer nouns we see come out of the mouth of an orc is actually going to show up in this chapter, and that is the word lubber. So it's not cesspool or dung filth, but it's still not exactly a nice thing to call your fellow soldier. So let's do some word nerdery on it and discuss why.
All right.
I imagine most people listening have probably heard the word landlubber before. Maybe you've heard it come out of the mouth of a pirate, or maybe your friend who won't stop talking like a pirate on International Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Arrgh, what's he be talking about?
I mark my calendar every year, actually September 19th. It's just 3 days before Hobbit Day, Talk Like a Pirate Day. If you're not doing it, folks, that's totally fine. Actually, you don't have to do it. But I might say one thing like a pirate on that day. Anyway.
All right, then.
So, landlubber is a sailor's term of contempt for a landsman, and it's first attested in 1699, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. As it turns out, though, the word lubber, which without the word land, it doesn't mean someone who lubs on other surfaces. I don't even know if lub is a verb. I'm pretty sure it's not. But the word lubber without land actually appears over 300 years earlier than landlubber. It first appears in 1362 in the poem Piers Plowman by William Langland.
Okay.
The meaning there was a big, clumsy, stupid fellow, especially one who lives in idleness.
Wait a minute. I feel a little called out here.
Do you feel called out? Yeah.
I do. I'm not liking this very much.
I resemble that definition, sir.
I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah, big, clumsy, stupid fellow, especially one who's kind of lazy. And it was often applied to monks in the term abbey lubber.
Abbey lubber. That's interesting. Well, what if you were only there maybe 20 hours out of the week? Would you be a part-time lubber? Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Not sorry.
Wow. What if you wanted everybody to think that you weren't lazy, but you were? Then would you be a secret lubber?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Man, this could get really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Would Prince come along and say, I want to be your lubber?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Prince would say, I want to be your lubber.
I bet he would.
Yeah, he absolutely would. And we're just going to stop right there. Except we should probably mention that famous Canadian rock band from the 80s, Loverboy.
Yes, of course.
They were phenomenal.
They were wonderful.
Everybody's working for the, nobody's working
for the
idle.
weekend.
That's the problem.
That's right.
All right. Well, from abbey lubber, it took on another meaning around 1538 of an inferior servant. Still feeling called out. And then in 1579, it first appeared as a term in sailors' slang for a clumsy seaman or an unseaman-like fellow, which ultimately led to the enduring, not endearing term, landlubber. But let's talk about some of these meanings. It's possible that when Gorbag calls Shagrat "ye lubber," he could be using it in that later sense of an inferior, a lower-ranking soldier or officer. But given the way Shagrat speaks back to Gorbag, that doesn't seem that likely. They're both called leaders in the text, so we know that they each have their own command. It seems much more likely, then, that by calling Shagrat a lubber, he's simply insulting him, calling him clumsy, stupid, and lazy. Hammond and Skull say the same thing in The Reader's Companion. They say that they are accusing each other of avoiding more active service.
Yeah, that really does seem to be the case. I mean, why just speak to somebody normally when you could insult them?
Oh, always.
I mean, that's what an orc would do. Now, interestingly, going back to the Oxford English Dictionary, we're told that the etymology of lubber may be a derivation of Old French lobeur, meaning swindler or parasite, from a verb lobe, meaning to deceive, sponge upon, or mock.
Ooh, sponge upon. I love that.
Isn't that great?
That's a great little phrase.
Yeah. Now, if that is the origin of the word, though, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the sense of it has been altered by association with another word. What that means is basically, it doesn't mean swindler or parasite anymore because it's been associated with another similar sounding word. And that word, as it so happens, is lob.
Oh my goodness.
As in something heavy or clumsy or loosely hanging, which is related to the word lob, meaning spider, because of course they hang from their webs.
That's right. We were just there. Yeah.
We were just there in episode 254.
Oh my goodness.
And when I read that, I have to wonder if Tolkien used the word lubber here, and only here. This is the only place he uses it.
True.
Because he'd just been thinking of lob while writing Shelob. And of course, Tolkien's mind being the massive word hoard of etymologies and word histories that it was, he must have known these two words are connected. And so maybe when he's writing lob for Shelob, he's thinking of lubber too. Now that's pure speculation, of course, but I would not put it past him.
In fact, I'd actually almost presume that unless there's evidence to the contrary. I mean, it's the type of thing he would do.
Yeah, it totally is.
And it absolutely is connected. That's fascinating. I didn't catch that the verb lober, the French verb lober, is related to the word lob, which we just covered about spider. That's phenomenal. I love it.
Absolutely insane stuff. And I'm so glad that we found it for this philology fair. That's why we love this.
Well, we may also wonder if he was thinking of that original Old French origin of the word, meaning swindler, deceiver, or parasite. I mean, these are certainly traits you might easily associate with orcs, so the word is also fitting that way.
Yeah, it's probably one of those situations where Tolkien saw that this word is fitting for a lot of different reasons, so I'm going to use it here.
Double meaning's perfectly fine.
Yep. So that was fun. Thanks for giving us a chance to talk through that with you folks. Hope you enjoyed it. But now, let's go ahead and see what happens when Sam gets a new toy and plays with it for the first time. Alan?
All right. He stooped. Very gently, he undid the clasp at the neck and slipped his hand inside Frodo's tunic. Then, with his other hand raising the head, he kissed the cold forehead and softly drew the chain over it. And then the head lay quietly back again in rest. No change came over the still face, and by that, more than by all other tokens, Sam was convinced at last that Frodo had died and laid aside the quest. "Goodbye, master, my dear," he murmured. "Forgive your Sam. He'll come back to this spot when the job's done, if he manages it. And then he'll not leave you again. Rest you quiet till I come, and may no foul creature come anigh you. And if the lady could hear me and give me one wish, I would wish to come back and find you again. Goodbye." And then he bent his own neck and put the chain upon it. And at once his head was bowed to the ground with the weight of the ring, as if a great stone had been strung on him. But slowly, as if the weight became less, or new strength grew in him, he raised his head, and then, with a great effort, got to his feet, and found that he could walk and bear his burden. And for a moment he lifted up the vial and looked down at his master, and the light burned gently now with the soft radiance of the evening star in summer. And in that light, Frodo's face was fair of hue again, pale but beautiful with an elvish beauty, as of one who has long passed the shadows. And with the bitter comfort of that last sight, Sam turned and hid the light and stumbled on into the growing dark. All right.
So last episode, we saw Sam finally logic his way through to the decision that he was going to take the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And here we see him take it.
That's right.
Picking up right where we left off there. And he does this very gently. Obviously, great love for Frodo here, whom he believes has died. Raises Frodo's head, takes the chain and the ring over it, and then kisses his forehead. And the forehead is cold. So, of course, that's going to underscore the idea that he must be dead.
Right. But more than that, it's the fact that Frodo's face didn't change after Sam took possession of the ring. That's what clinches it for Sam. And
for sure.
I think for the reader, too. The first time you're reading through this, you buy that he's dead.
Oh, absolutely.
I did.
I thought for sure he was dead.
Vividly remember that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he speaks his last words to Frodo, or what he believes are his last words, and they are lovely last words.
They really are. He asks him for forgiveness, and then he promises to come back after completing the quest. I think it's a bold promise, but I love it. He promises to come back and to not leave you again.
It is a bold promise because, it doesn't seem like there's really any chance that he's ever going to come back this way if he manages to complete the quest. He's already discussed that with Frodo.
Yeah.
But he's going to try, and I like the promise. It's a lovely promise. And then he's thinking about Galadriel again here, isn't he? I mean, they've been thinking about Galadriel, or Sam has, a lot in this chapter.
I think we talked last week about Galadriel essentially inspiring or even speaking through him.
Yeah.
With that invocation.
Yeah, that invocation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so here he is thinking of her again. He's wishing to her that he could come back and still find Frodo's body intact, which I guess tells us that he probably doesn't think it's too likely that he is going to be able to come back and find Frodo, but he's wishing that he can. And then he says goodbye. And I love this because, I'm remembering that recent Patreon special we did. Was it a year ago? Mm-hmm. About that, I think.
I think actually, that was maybe 2 or 3 specials ago, wasn't it? So it might have been earlier this season. It might have been fall.
Maybe so. Maybe it was late last year.
Yeah.
And that was that special where we looked into goodbyes in Middle-earth, and we looked into the difference between some of these goodbyes, which are very spiritual goodbyes, going back to the etymology of the word goodbye, which originally was God be with you.
God be with you, right.
And then we talked about how some of them are a little bit more like, hey, see you later.
Right.
Hope things go
Farewell.
well until we see each other soon. Mm-hmm. This is just a pure goodbye. This could really be taken as a very final farewell.
Mm-hmm. Quite. And then he puts the chain with the ring over his neck, and wow. Initially, just this overwhelming weight, like a millstone, just pulling him down to the ground.
At once, his head was bowed. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think about it, he had not had time to get used to it the way Frodo has, right? Frodo has been carrying this thing since the Shire, when the burden would nowhere have been as large as it is now.
Right.
He's putting it on at a time when it's near its maximum. Yeah.
It's near its maximum power. We're going to see that mentioned very explicitly later on.
Yeah.
And he's putting it on just cold from that. It's got to be incredibly heavy. And it is. But over time, either his strength grows or the weight lessens.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, the text doesn't tell us which one it is, whether it's one or the other, or maybe a mix of both. What do you think?
I tend to think it's more his own strength.
Yeah.
I don't see the ring becoming less heavy.
Not here.
This close to Mordor.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's more just like, and maybe it's just the shock of it, because like you said, it is the first time he's putting this thing on. And when I say on, I mean, over his head on the chain.
Well, right. He's not wearing it yet.
Right.
Soon
he will be. And we'll talk about that too. But yeah, I think that's what this is. I think it's just the weight immediately just kind of He wasn't expecting it.
No, you wouldn't expect a ring to weigh, 100 kilos or whatever much it feels like it weighs.
Right, exactly. But he does get used to it, at least as much as he can, and he raises his head, and he does manage to walk, although with a great effort.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great effort, and that he could walk and bear his burden. In other words, it was almost a surprise to him that he could do this. It wasn't what he expected. Yeah.
And he's also thinking to himself, oh my goodness, I had no idea Frodo was
that's a
carrying
good point.
this whole time.
He realizes now what Frodo's been carrying in terms of the burden.
Yeah.
Speaking of Frodo, he raises the vial and looks down on Frodo, and the light is burning less powerfully now, right? It's not mind-stabbingly brilliant anymore.
No, it's actually a soft light. It's like the evening star in summer, we're told, which I do love. Always a little subtle Arendelle reference.
Yeah, always.
And I love this even more. It gives Frodo's face a pale, elvish beauty.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I mean, again, it's another connection between stars and elves, isn't it? It
really is.
This light is likened to both a star. Well, it's light from the evening star, obviously.
Quite, yeah.
I mean, because here we're told, the light coming from the vial, which is starlight, and it is light from the evening star ultimately.
Right.
But it's like the evening star in summer, which is a very gentle light. And this starlight is giving Frodo's face this elvish beauty. I'm always fascinated by how frequently Tolkien makes the connection between stars and elves.
Stars and elves, yeah.
Yep.
Hardly see one without the other. It's true.
Yeah.
And that cold comfort, that's really what it is, because he is still dead in Sam's mind. That cold comfort is the last thing that Sam sees before he turns, hides the vial away, and goes on.
Right.
Before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
That's right. Our wonderful listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community, Twitter, and more.
On Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast. But be sure to follow the page and join the group to get involved with some great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/PrancingPonyPod. And we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
And don't forget to check out our new podcast, The Rings of Power Wrap-Up, where we discuss, analyze, and speculate all about Amazon's television adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth.
Yeah, we'll take deep dives into the lore behind the show. We'll talk about our favorite themes and characters and a whole lot more. So look for The Rings of Power Wrap-Up and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And check out our social media at Rings Wrap-Up for more.
And folks, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. When you do, you get a lot. You get a really active Discord community that includes live episode recordings. You get postscripts, episodes without digital ads, free merchandise, and a lot more.
A whole lot more, actually. You also get live Discord hangouts, a chance to be a part of our Questions After Nightfall episodes, or even join us as a guest in the North Wing. So check out patreon.com/prancingponypod to support the show and become part of the Fellowship of the Podcast.
And the support we get on Patreon is what enables us to pour so much into the show, so we really appreciate it. Now, you can also help us out by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, you can just leave us a rating. And please, recommend us to your friends.
Please do.
Now, Sean, we're going to go ahead and get right back in. We're going to skip a little bit, but not much. Again, only because we have to skip some things. Go ahead and pick up about halfway into that next paragraph.
Okay. Soon, Sam came to a long flight of broad, shallow steps. Now the Orc Tower was right above him, frowning black, and in it the red eye glowed. Now he was hidden in the dark shadow under it. He was coming to the top of the steps, and was in the cleft at last. "I've made up my mind," he kept saying to himself. But he had not. Though he had done his best to think it out, what he was doing was altogether against the grain of his nature. "Have I got it wrong?" he muttered. "What ought I to have done?" As the sheer sides of the cleft closed about him, before he reached the actual summit, before he looked at last on the path descending into the nameless land, he turned. For a moment, motionless in intolerable doubt, he looked back. He could still see, like a small blot in the gathering gloom, the mouth of the tunnel, and he thought he could see or guess where Frodo lay. He fancied there was a glimmer on the ground down there, or perhaps it was some trick of his tears as he peered out at that high, stony place, where all his life had fallen in ruin. "If only I could have my wish, my one wish," he sighed, "to go back and find him." Then at last he turned to the road in front and took a few steps, the heaviest and the most reluctant he had ever taken.
Wow. I can't even imagine what it must have taken for him to move on.
Oh, yeah. Tremendous. And we'll talk about that.
When you realize how much he loves Frodo. And
yeah, this is so much more than the weight of the ring.
Yeah, it is.
This is agony for him to leave Frodo behind.
It's the weight of him doing what he really feels he shouldn't be doing. And we'll talk about that later. But going back to the beginning of that passage, right before the part you read, we see that it's not far to Mordor proper now, right? The tunnel is a long way behind. The cleft is close ahead. Now I just want to start singing that song from Return of the King. Tunnels behind, the cleft is close ahead. And there are many orcs about, and spiders, and dead Frodo.
That you almost got a really nice rhyme out of that, but no.
Well, it was totally off the cuff. Maybe next time.
Fine.
All right. So again, though, tunnel's way back. The cleft is really close. He can see the path. It's a rut in a canyon between cliffs, and that canyon narrows.
Yep. And then he gets to a staircase, which is wide with shallow steps. And this is all under the ominous tower with the red light, this orc tower that he's been thinking of for some time now.
A little worried about this. Yeah.
Quite. And now he's in the cleft itself at the top of the stairs. And this is just a really narrow passage here.
It really is. And he's trying to convince himself that he's made his mind up. He's wrestling with that logic of his decision. And like we kind of hinted at, the fact that this goes against his very core, right? This is against everything he's ever stood for. But the logic of his decision does work out. I mean, that is the right call, but he continues to question himself.
It is absolutely the right thing to do to keep on going. He came all this way to make sure the quest would not fail. What else should he be doing?
That's right. He didn't set out to die next to Frodo.
Right.
So that the ring could be taken by the enemy. He set out to destroy the ring. So destroy the ring.
That's right. And yet he never imagined that this was how it was going to play out. He never imagined that he was going to have to leave Frodo's side. And maybe this was Sam's own simplicity or naivete that he didn't think that this was a possibility. Or maybe he just has such a high opinion of Frodo that he never imagined that Frodo could possibly fall.
Or that anything that would kill Frodo would also kill him, so he wouldn't have to make this decision.
Yeah, that could be too. Like if Frodo dies, I'm going to be dead too. So there's no... Yeah.
Exactly. Because anybody that's going to get to Frodo is going to have to go through me.
Yeah, true.
Which is what he thought all along, right?
That actually is it. I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
He would assume that he would die first before Frodo would.
Because they're going to have to get through me first. But
yeah,
Shelob didn't pay attention to that particular objective of Sam's.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, he continues to question himself. And I kind of want to talk about this a little bit because this is a real world application here. Something that we all face, this idea of logic versus instinct. You know, go with your gut or listen to your heart versus reasoning things out. I don't know. This is a tough spot for him to be in. I get it. The drive, the motivation to do what he feels is the right thing, which is to stay by Frodo, is the wrong instinct to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, we can't always just go with our gut or listen to our heart.
No, we can't. And I'm saying this as a chronic overthinker. I mean, I always reason things out, sometimes too much. I'm not good at going with my gut.
No.
So I would definitely have gone with, okay, once I made this decision, I'm doing it. And I'm going to make sure I do it.
It might have taken me twice as long to make the decision. A little paralysis by analysis there. Yeah. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But Sam really is torn here because he obviously wants to go with his gut. And I mean, this is reason versus emotion. You know, you said logic versus instinct. I think it's just as equally reason versus emotion. He knows what's right.
It is.
He just does not want to leave Frodo behind.
No. Wow. No, he does not.
But he does. And as he nears the summit, knowing he's about to descend into Mordor, he does look back.
Oh, don't even look back, Sam.
Because he really does not want to go.
No, he does not.
But he really doesn't. I mean, we're told, I love this phrase, intolerable doubt is what he was feeling.
You can kind of feel that, can't you?
I have felt that so many times. You just cannot let go of, did I lock the door? Did I turn off the gas?
Did I leave the stove on?
Did I leave the stove on? Am I going to make it through this job interview or whatever it is? I mean, we've all experienced that, and it just, you cannot tolerate the not knowing. And sometimes you have no choice. But here, you know, when you're in that situation, if you have an opportunity to look back or
Oh,
turn the car around and go back and make sure you lock the door. I mean, sometimes you're going to do that. And that's what he's doing here.
Sam has to go on, even though he still has this doubt, and he knows it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when he looks back, he can see the opening of the tunnel, kind of off in the distance, and he thinks he can even see where Frodo's body is, huh?
Yeah, he does. And he also sees a glimmer on the ground near the body, which I'm not really sure what to make of this. What do you think?
Well, I thought the same thing. What would be glimmering? Maybe his mithril coat, but that's underneath the tunic. That doesn't make any sense. So I was looking it up in The War of the Ring, and in an earlier draft, it wasn't just a glimmer on the ground, it was light or a glimmer of it that Sam saw. And Christopher Tolkien speculates on this. He says, what was the light or a glimmer of it that Sam saw? It survives in The Two Towers, and then he quotes this exact line about the glimmer on the ground. Can the original meaning, Christopher says, have been that there was a faint shining from the vial of Galadriel, very probably at this stage, still left clasped in Frodo's hand?
Oh, wow. That's a good catch. So this would have been, in the original draft, this would have been Sam turning back and seeing the vial and going back and getting it.
Because he had not taken the vial himself.
Right. Man, can you imagine if he hadn't actually gone back and done that? I mean, like you said, he left the mithril coat, and that ended up being a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
What if he hadn't taken the vial?
Wow.
I mean, if he hadn't taken the vial, would he have even been able to fight Shelob the way he just did?
No, he wouldn't have been, to answer that question. But what if he gave the vial back to Frodo?
Oh, he used it and then put it back in Frodo's hand. That's interesting.
I wonder. In other words, what if he used it successfully in defeating Shelob, put it back on Frodo so it was captured by the orcs along with the mithril coat? Would it just be another trinket for them to argue over? Would it have been something more because of its elvish nature? I don't know.
Would they have been afraid to touch it? Would they have been afraid to go around Frodo?
Would they? Absolutely.
I mean, they probably would have eventually. They would have gone near Frodo anyway. One of them would have just kicked the vial out of the way.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Wow. That's really interesting.
That's just an interesting idea. And, whether the vial is something that he uses between now and when he rescues Frodo. We'll take a look at that, obviously. We'll keep an eye out.
I love to imagine Shagrat and Gorbag taking the vial back to the tower and it just exploding suddenly.
Like a big giant grenade.
Like a bomb. What's this? I don't know.
5, 4, 3. What is this, Gorbag? Boom!
Yeah. All right. So going back to the text, then we get this very sad reminder of where Sam's heart is right now. As he looks back and he sees Frodo, he describes it as that place where all his life had fallen in ruin.
Oh, what a phrase that is.
This is where he's lost everything.
Yeah, he absolutely has. And then he repeats that wish that he'd spoken earlier, right? To go back and find Frodo. And that's when he takes the hardest steps that he's ever taken.
That's right. And these are not the hardest steps he had ever taken because of the weight of the ring or because he's going into the terrifying place that is Mordor.
Nope.
These are the hardest steps he'd ever taken because they're steps away from Frodo.
Exactly.
That's what makes this the most difficult thing he's ever done.
100%.
If I take 3 more steps, they'll be the hardest steps I've ever taken.
It'll be the furthest away I've ever been from you, Mr. Frodo.
Exactly. So yeah, this is heartbreaking.
It is.
Absolutely heartbreaking. He wants nothing more than to just sit there and just be with Frodo and until whatever happens. But he knows that he can't.
No.
And that's where you're going to pick up.
Indeed it is, right there where you left off. Only a few steps, and now only a few more, and he would be going down and would never see that high place again. And then suddenly, he heard cries and voices. He stood still as stone. Orc voices. They were behind him and before him. A noise of tramping feet and harsh shouts. Orcs were coming up to the cleft from the far side, from some entry to the tower, perhaps. Tramping feet and shouts behind. He wheeled round. He saw small red lights, torches, winking away below there as they issued from the tunnel. At last the hunt was up. The red eye of the tower had not been blind. He was caught. Now the flicker of approaching torches and the clink of steel ahead was very near. In a minute they would reach the top and be on him. He had taken too long in making up his mind, and now it was no good. How could he escape, or save himself, or save the ring? The ring. He was not aware of any thought or decision. He simply found himself drawing out the chain and taking the ring in his hand. The head of the orc company appeared in the cleft right before him. Then he put it on. The world changed, and a single moment of time was filled with an hour of thought. At once he was aware that hearing was sharpened while sight was dimmed. but otherwise than in Shelob's lair. All things about him now were not dark, but vague, while he himself was there in a gray, hazy world alone, like a small, black, solid rock, and the ring, weighing down his left hand, was like an orb of hot gold. He did not feel invisible at all, but horribly and uniquely visible, and he knew that somewhere an eye was searching for him.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's not a comfy place to be.
No, not one bit.
Uh-uh.
So, he takes these few steps away from Frodo, and as he's walking away, he suddenly realizes that he's nearing the top, and from here, he knows that just very soon he'll never see that high place again.
That's right, but
that's it.
It's interesting because, he just talked about his wish, right? I wish I could be able to come back and find you. He made a promise to Frodo to come back. I think there's a part of him that knows he'll never be here again.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. He said that out loud because it made him feel better. Maybe he felt like it was something he needed to say to Frodo, but he knows better.
As he's doing this, right? I mean, I think maybe at the time he said it, he believed it, right?
Maybe at the time he thought there was a possibility, and now as he's doing it, the reality sinks in. He's like, oh, I'm never coming back. He knows
I'll never be here again. No.
Yeah, that could be it.
Which makes going forward even harder. Yeah.
But then something else happens.
Oh, yeah.
Something unexpected. He hears orc voices.
That's right.
And he freezes. And this is creepy because they're both behind him and in front of him. He's hearing tramping feet and shouting.
Yeah.
In both directions, basically.
Right, exactly. The ones in front are coming up the cleft from the other side, likely from the tower. The ones in the back, well, they're coming out from the tunnel, and he sees their torches.
That's right. And in one terrifying moment, he realizes he's been caught.
The jig is up.
The news is out. They finally
found me.
The renegade who had it made.
Trade for a bounty.
That's right.
Oh, Mama, I can hear you calling.
Yeah!
So scared and all alone. We haven't had a Styx reference in a while, have we? Maybe ever. I think we have.
We've had some Styx references and a few episode titles, too.
That's right. We did have the episode titles. It's been too long, though.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So while he's been frozen, the group in front has been getting closer. And then,
yeah.
And then he's not just hearing them. He sees their torches, and then he hears their armor and weapons, and he knows they're going to be on him in just a minute.
That's right. You don't have any time to do anything at this point. He realizes he took too long to decide earlier, or at least he thinks he took too long. I don't see how he could have reached a decision any more quickly. That was a hard decision to make.
Well, everything happens kind of as it has to happen, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's true. I mean, if he'd made this decision earlier, he would just have met the group in front a little earlier, and the group from behind would have come later. It's not,
Right.
But anyway, he can't escape, right? He can't save himself. He can't save the ring. Oh, wait, the ring. He gets this light bulb moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And the text says that he wasn't aware of any thought or decision. He just did it.
I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. I especially think this is interesting because he does it so quickly, right?
He does, yeah. Was this an instinctual reaction? Or do you think the ring is already somehow at work?
I don't know. I really don't know because, Frodo hasn't put the ring on since Parthgalen, right? Which has been a couple of weeks now, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the ring should be more at work on Frodo. You would think that Frodo would be putting the ring on more frequently if this is the ring at work, but
he was certainly tempted near Minas Morgul,
true.
Right?
And maybe it's just because he has done it many times before. Maybe he understands the temptation well enough, and Sam doesn't. Sam isn't prepared for the onslaught of the ring at work. On his mind,
and he's not ready for that transition into Wraith World.
No,
By the way, that is a very inexpensive amusement park, but I don't recommend you go there.
It's really not good for kids.
No,
not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. The rides are terrible, and the food is even worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And the landscape, it stinks. The landscaping is disgusting.
And the only souvenirs they have are little shards of a knife that they jab into your shoulder. You want one, kid?
You'll have this forever.
That's right. Remember your time in Wraith World.
Man, that's great.
Hand stamp.
Get your picture taken with a Morgul blade being shoved into your shoulder.
Oh, man. That's terrible. Oh, man.
Say Lugbors. Oh, it's horrible.
We could definitely make some interesting ideas from that, but we'll not do that, right? We'll be serious here about the text because this is really a pretty serious
will, because this is a very important moment. But you're right. Sam really is not ready for the ring in any sense. He wasn't ready for the weight of it. He's not ready for its attack upon his mind.
No.
And he wasn't ready for, like you said, the Wraith world. He wasn't ready for this world of ring vision that we're thrust back into as soon as he pulls out the chain and he puts the ring on as soon as he sees the leader of the orcs in front coming. And then suddenly we're back in that ring vision world, that misty world.
Wraithy world. And I think, because Frodo had been in there, he knew. And so he didn't really want to put the ring on. It was a miserable experience to do that. Mm-hmm. Sam wouldn't know that.
That must be it.
So I think you're right. There's definitely an element of naivete.
It's a lack of experience.
All he knows is it makes me invisible, and I really need to be invisible right about now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we mentioned this a little bit ago. It's been a while since anybody's put on the ring. The last time was Amon Hen. Before that, it was all the way on Weathertop. So it's really not something he's done very often.
Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then because this is the first time Sam's putting it on and we're in Sam's POV here, we do get Sam's perspective. So
that's right.
We see the effect and we've talked about sort of the sensory effects before. He's got sharpened hearing, but he's got dimmed sight. Right. It's not that it's dark, but it's that everything is vague and hazy.
That's right. Now, we should compare that with the last couple of times that Frodo used it. On Weathertop, we read, immediately, though everything else remained as before, dim and dark, the shapes became terribly clear. But I have to say, those were the shapes of the ring wraiths. The only view we get of the normal world is something that we see later, and it has to do with Aragorn. And that normal world was seen, quote, as through a swirling mist.
That's right. And that same mist appeared when he put the ring on and ran to the top of Amon Hen, which was the last time he had the ring on. We read there that he saw, as through a mist, a wide, flat circle paved with mighty flags and surrounded with a crumbling battlement. And then we get, at first he could see little. He seemed to be in a world of mist in which there were only shadows. The ring was upon him. And eventually he could see better, but that was actually due to the effect of being on Amon Hen. That wasn't from the ring.
Right. Interesting that mist is used twice in that passage and then once in the Weathertop passage. So I think we do get a consistent feeling of what that vision would be like.
What the Wraith world looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very misty, hazy, vague, unsettled, abstract, not concrete. I imagine things don't look tangible.
I think that's right, because it is kind of another world, right? It's almost like another plane of existence in a way, a parallel plane of existence, if I have to use kind of a clumsy analogy from modern fantasy and science fiction. Absolutely. That's kind of what it's like. Everything is going to look the way it should, but it's almost like there's like a film or a haze in front of it, because it's like you're just separated from it.
The ring itself here, by the way, back to the text, looks like an orb of hot gold on his finger. That's got to be a little scary to see that thing just absolutely on fire.
Just glowing on his finger, yeah.
While everything else is misty and in shade,
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And then we get this insight. Frodo always knew he was invisible when he was wearing the ring, but Sam here feels the exact opposite. He feels incredibly visible, and he is absolutely aware that there is an eye searching for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he's closer to that eye than Frodo ever was while wearing the ring.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So yeah, he's very close to it. He feels very, like you said, very visible.
Very naked, very vulnerable.
Vulnerable for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'm going to have you pick up exactly where we left off here with Sam in Wraith World and what he hears.
Okay. He heard the crack of stone and the murmur of water far off in Morgul Vale, and down away under the rock the bubbling misery of Shelob, groping, lost in some blind passage, and voices in the dungeons of the tower, and the cries of the orcs as they came out of the tunnel, and deafening, roaring in his ears, the crash of the feet and the rending clamor of the orcs before him. He shrank against the cliff, but they marched up like a phantom company, gray, distorted figures in a mist, only dreams of fear with pale flames in their hands. And they passed him by. He cowered, trying to creep away into some cranny and to hide. He listened. The orcs from the tunnel and the others marching down had sighted one another, and both parties were now hurrying and shouting. He heard them both clearly, and he understood what they said. Perhaps the ring gave understanding of tongues, or simply understanding, especially of the servants of Sauron its maker, so that if he gave heed, he understood and translated the thought to himself. Certainly the ring had grown greatly in power as it approached the places of its forging, but one thing it did not confer, and that was courage. At present, Sam still thought only of hiding, of lying low till all was quiet again, and he listened anxiously. He could not tell how near the voices were. The words seemed almost in his ears.
Hola, Gorbag! What are you doing up here? Had enough of war already? Orders, you lubber. And what are you doing, Shagrat? Tired of lurking up there? Thinking of coming down to fight? Orders to you. I'm in command of this pass, so speak civil. What's your report? Nothing. Hi! Hi! Yoy!
A yell broke into the exchanges of the leaders. The orcs lower down had suddenly seen something. They began to run. So did the others.
Hi! Hola! Here's something! Lying right in the road. A spy! A spy!
There was a hoot of snarling horns and a babel of baying voices.
All right. Well, going back to the beginning of that passage, by the way, I hope your throat is still intact after doing Gorbag and Shagrat, because we're not done with them for a long time.
No, we're not.
So take it easy.
No, we are not.
But we get some evidence of that sharpened hearing that we were told about a minute ago, right? I mean, he may have that hazy vision, but wow, he can hear the cracking of stone. He can hear the murmur of water all the way down in the Morgul Vale.
Yeah, this is not natural hearing.
No, this is supernatural hearing for sure. We get the bubbling misery of Shelob. What a phrase that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very vivid.
That must feel good. Knowing that Shelob's there, that's right.
That satisfying sound of like baking soda and vinegar bubbling. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I did
right.
that. That's right. You're not coming anywhere for a while. Yeah.
Nope. And he also hears voices in the tower dungeons. Those have got to be buried deep.
Oh, boy.
And of course, he hears the cries of the orcs behind and really loud, because they're incredibly close to him, the clamor of the orcs in front.
But consistent with the way that vision in the normal world works while wearing the ring, they are just gray figures in a mist.
Mm-hmm.
So as they pass by, Sam, even though he's invisible, tries to find a little crack to hide in and listen. And I can't blame him. I'd do the same.
I would absolutely hide, but I would also want to get as far away from this as possible because, both groups of orcs have spotted each other at this point, and they're now hurrying and yelling.
Yeah, that's bad.
Because they're not like, hey, man, how are you doing? It's good to see you, bud. Yeah. How have you been? It's been a while. How's the wife and kids? No, it's, it's just hurrying and yelling. The Glamhoth, right? Remember that's the name for the orcs, the noisy horde or the din horde.
The din horde. So Sam recognizes that not only does he hear them, but he also understands them, which leads to an aside about the ring possibly giving understanding.
Which all I can think of is a babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yes, from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Translating their speech and converting it into thought that he can understand.
In the brainwaves of your,
Yeah. If that's what's going on.
If that's what's going on, you're right. Because it could be giving him understanding of tongues, like if they're speaking in the black tongue. Or maybe it's giving him understanding because they're Sauron's servants and the ring was made by Sauron. Or maybe the orcs are just talking in Westeron.
That is entirely possible. I mean, we talked about that last season when Merry and Pippin were taken by the Uruk-hai and they were taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Yes, they were.
They could understand them because they actually were speaking the common tongue.
That's right.
And Appendix F actually tells us that this was common. Tolkien writes there that these creatures, being filled with malice, hating even their own kind, quickly developed as many barbarous dialects as there were groups or settlements of their race, so that their orcish speech was of little use to them in intercourse between different tribes. So it was that in the Third Age, orcs used for communication between breed and breed the Westron tongue. So it could be that these are just orcs of different breeds, different localities that are using Westron because that's the language they have in common.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We're not told any of that for certain here, because we're also told that the ring has certainly become more powerful as it approaches Mordor. So it's also possible that they're not speaking Westron and Sam is understanding because of some heightened power of the ring. It's ultimately inconclusive.
Yeah.
But we do know that while the ring may convey invisibility and other powers, one thing it does not give is courage.
How did I know you were going there? And if you didn't, I was about to.
And poor Sam, I mean, like you said, all he can think of is just hiding until everything is quiet, until they're gone.
Go away.
Yeah.
And of course, the voices are, right on top of him. They're virtually in his ears. But because of that supernatural hearing, he actually is at a disadvantage. He can't tell how near or far away they actually are.
No, he can't.
And we'll find that actually comes back to haunt him a little bit later down the road.
That's right. It will. Yes. And then we meet our favorite duo.
Oh,
That's right. Not Hall & Oates.
Nope.
Not Simon and Garfunkel.
Not Captain and Tennille. Not Peaches and Herb.
No. And not Jeeves and Wooster either.
Jeeves and Wooster. Oh,
it's Gorbag and Shagrat.
Gorbag and Shagrat. Whoop, whoop.
And these are unlikely pals, right? Gorbag is from Minas Morgul. He's a city guy. Shagrat's from the Tower of Cirithungol. He's from the burbs,
Yeah. You'd think they wouldn't get along. Yeah.
You'd think they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And they don't. Exactly. Just exactly as you'd expect. So Hammond and Skull tell us that Tolkien deliberately invented orc names with sounds that seem harsh and unpleasant to English ears or have unpleasant associations. They go on to say that shag, for instance, has many meanings, including rough matted hair and a low rascally fellow, while rat can mean vermin or a despicable person.
Sure.
True. I dare say that's not all shag means, but I'm going to give Tolkien the benefit of the doubt on that one. I don't think he meant to apply anything there.
I hope not.
I
sure hope not, because one can also see a scenario in which that name would be bestowed.
No.
Let's not think about that.
No.
And interestingly, in regards to these names, in earlier drafts that are in the War of the Ring, Shagrat was already named that.
Right.
But Gorbag's part was actually played by an orc named Yagul, spelled Y-A-G-U-L, or in some places Y-A-G-O-O-L.
Oh, I like that spelling. Yagul.
Yagul. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
He also doesn't call the place he's from Minas Morgul at that point. In those early manuscripts, he refers to it as Dushgoy, which apparently was the name of Minas Morgul in Orcish.
I'm glad he changed it. Dushgoy just doesn't roll off the tongue. I mean, Minas Morgul is intimidating and stuff. It's not super nice, but it's not Dushgoy, which just sounds really weird.
Dushgoy does have a consistency with, Pushdug and some of those other Orcish words that we know, but
it definitely sounds Orcish, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they start off, as friends would, with Orcish insults. Shagrat suggests that Gorbag is already tired of war. Gorbag calls Shagrat a lubber, like we talked about in the philology fair, suggesting that maybe he's tired of lurking in the tower. So yeah, I think we were on the right path with the philology fair, that it was meant to be somebody who was lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we shouldn't be surprised that people who use their language primarily for curses and abuse, as Tolkien says, would talk this way to each other, right? I mean, this is not friendly banter. This is not just having a dig at a friend. This is full of scorn and spite. There's absolutely no fellowship between soldiers here.
No.
But we do learn that Shagrat is actually in charge here, and he has orders for Gorbag, so he's obviously the senior officer. But first, he asks for Gorbag's report, which I'm prepared to give in full here. Nothing.
And just as Shagrat is about to tear into Gorbag for having nothing to report, they start hearing yelling from Gorbag's troops, and everybody starts running.
Yeah, and that's because they found a spy lying in the road.
Which really isn't where you should be if you're a spy. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, that spy is Frodo.
Yeah.
He's not doing much.
No.
But he's laying in the road.
He's not doing much in the way of spying. You're right.
No, he's not. And then Sam hears horns hooting and a babel of baying voices. I love that alliteration, right?
That alliteration is spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah, we got a couple. We've got a couple of H's and a couple of B's. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it really is good. I like that.
But we're not going to pause there. We're going to keep on going, and you are going to pick up right there.
That's right. With a dreadful stroke, Sam was wakened from his cowering mood. They had seen his master. What would they do? He had heard tales of the orcs to make the blood run cold. It could not be borne. He sprang up. He flung the quest and all his decisions away, and fear and doubt with them. He knew now where his place was and had been, at his master's side, though what he could do there was not clear. Back he ran down the steps, down the path towards Frodo. How many are there, he thought. 30 or 40 from the tower at least, and a lot more than that from down below, I guess. How many can I kill before they get me? They'll see the flame of the sword as soon as I draw it, and they'll get me sooner or later. I wonder if any song will ever mention it, how Samwise fell in the high pass and made a wall of bodies round his master. Oh, no song. Of course not, for the ring will be found, and there'll be no more songs. I can't help it. My place is by Mr. Frodo. They must understand that, Elrond and the council, and the great lords and ladies with all their wisdom. Plans have gone wrong. I can't be their ring-bearer, not without Mr. Frodo. But the orcs were out of his dim sight now. He had had no time to consider himself, but now he realized that he was weary almost to exhaustion. His legs would not carry him as he wished. He was too slow. The path seemed miles long. Where had they all got to in the mist? There they were again, a good way ahead still. A cluster of figures round something lying on the ground. A few seemed to be darting this way and that, bent like dogs on a trail. He tried to make a spurt. "Come on, Sam," he said, "or you'll be too late again." And I'm going to stop right there because we can't read everything, even though we want to.
It would be lovely if we could.
It would.
All right. So picking up where I had left off, this certainly stirs Sam from his mindset of, well, I can only hide until they're gone, right? He knows now that they've seen Frodo, and he can't imagine what they're going to do. And he just cannot bear the thought of them doing anything to Frodo's body.
Oh, yeah. What tales of the orcs had he heard, perhaps? I mean, are they like the Reavers in Firefly? You know?
Could be. It very well could be. He could have heard of them looting bodies, butchering bodies.
Yeah. Wearing their skin.
Their skin, eating their flesh. I mean, it could be horrible stuff.
It could be horrible stuff. And some of it might be even beyond what orcs do, though I'm not sure that there's anything beyond what orcs do.
Well, but some of it could just be stories. There may not actually be any evidence of some of these things, but he's not going to take that chance.
No, he can't. And that's when he throws away all that logic and rationale, right? We talked about him being the emotional heart of the story, and wow, here is that on display in full strength, the heart of Sam, throwing away that logic and rationale along with his fear and doubt. And now he knows with certainty what he should be doing, where his place is, and that it is beside Frodo.
Yeah. And this should be a mistake. I mean, this should at least, I mean, it is a mistake logically. Obviously, it works out. But but logically, this is a mistake, right? I mean,
of course,
his place is not beside Frodo. His place.
What are you going to do if you get there?
Right. His place should be to get the heck out of Dodge and continue the quest.
Go destroy the ring. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, we will.
Because he does do this. And even if he doesn't know what he could possibly do if he got there, he's going to do it because he just needs to be there. So he starts running.
Yep.
And as he runs, he starts to do a little math in his head to see what kind of chances he's got here. And I love that.
He may not be thinking about the logical decision to make, but he's at least thinking about numbers and math.
He's thinking about the odds.
Right.
Yeah.
Never tell me the odds, kid.
Right.
30 or 40 of them from the tower and more from Minas Morgul. So if you've got more, then we're probably looking at 100 in total, give or take.
I mean, it could be as much as 100.
Could be 80, could be 150, but you know.
I mean, even if you want to just like say 80, you know, double the 30 or 40. Well, no, because he says a lot more than that from down below. You're absolutely right. So it is. It's more than 80.
It's got to be 100 or so, maybe more.
Yeah.
He knows the invisibility of the ring is going to help him take down quite a few.
Sure.
But he, sadly, you know, the sword is still going to be visible. The flame of Sting is going to be seen, and they will eventually get him.
That's right. We've talked about that all the way back in The Hobbit, haven't we?
That's right.
Even when he's invisible, the sword is in his hand. It's not on his person, so it's not invisible.
That does make things a little tricky, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Then we go back to a moment where he kind of talks again about his desire to be in stories and song.
Yeah. Yeah. That little callback to being in the Red Book. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he starts to imagine this story of Samwise falling in the high pass. Yeah. And this is very heroic. I mean, this is
it is.
Beowulfian moment for sure. Wall of bodies around Frodo. This is like Húrin's last stand, right?
Yes, that's what I was thinking, right?
Yeah.
The orc arms, the pile of orc arms that he was standing on as he hewed them.
Right.
70 times he uttered that cry. Yeah.
Right. Except that, well, nobody will tell this story, right?
That's right. He knows there's not going to be a song because there won't be any songs after the ring is found.
Right.
There'll be no singing here. That's Sauron's new
That's Sauron all
slogan. Over. Yeah. No singing here for sure. Yeah.
But still, his heart is with Frodo, and he knows or believes that he can't do this without him.
Yeah.
Even though he recognizes that this is not what Elrond planned, not what the council intended, he has to do this. And I love this, but I also don't.
Yeah, because the quest that was given to them was to destroy the ring, and you're going to be abandoning that quest to go back and die pointlessly by Frodo's side.
Yeah. And I understand it. I love the loyalty.
Yeah.
But it's a bit short-sighted, isn't it?
It's incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah.
You're essentially dooming the Shire and Rivendell and Lorien and every place you've been and everybody you've ever seen.
Yeah.
You're dooming all of them by this choice.
Yeah. And again, I know it works out, obviously.
I know.
We know it does work out, and this is the way it had to work out. But logically, Sam, this does not make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
But he does it.
But now the orcs are beyond his sight, right? I mean, he can't see them anymore. And it's fair to think that maybe his sight is a little bit limited by the ring. That haziness probably does give him a little bit of a drawback in terms of his
probably
range.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, but he's also slow. I mean, he suddenly comes to this realization of how unbelievably tired he is, right? He can barely put one foot in front of another at this point.
Yeah, we've all felt that, probably not to this degree, right?
No, at the end of a long day at Disneyland, that's about how I feel, trying to walk back to the car. You know? It's like, I couldn't sprint now if you paid me.
And I'm thinking of like when I've moved, right?
Oh,
Move
goodness.
house,
Yes, that is so
and you're
draining.
just working all day. You're carrying boxes. You're assembling furniture. You're doing all this stuff. And then like by the end of the day, you sit down and suddenly you realize, man, I am so much more tired than.
Yeah, I can't even get up. I'm just going to sleep on the couch. I can't move, right?
Yeah, and that's like, moving 1.5 miles from my old house to my new house. That's not what Sam is doing.
No, that's not putting on this terrible, evil ring, watching your friend die.
Watching your friend die and then hiding from cannibal monsters.
From 100 orcs who would kill you and skin you alive as soon as they see you. Yeah. Man, good point.
And speaking of which, he can see the orcs again now, but they are quite a bit ahead here. They're all clustered around Frodo. So he tries to sprint. He tries to get there as quickly as he can, and he gives himself a little bit of encouragement. Come on, Sam, or you'll be too late. And he closes the distance pretty quickly and gets close enough to get ready to pull Sting.
Yep. But it is too late. I mean, the orcs lift Frodo from the ground and they start hooting and laughing. Hammond and Skull point us to a passage in the Annotated Hobbit, a book we haven't visited in a while, since season 2, where Douglas A. Anderson compares this set of orc cheers, Yahoy, Yahari Hoy, to a similar set of phrases, Yahey, Yahari Hey, Yahoy, in Chapter 6 of The Hobbit, when the goblins are dancing at the foot of the trees where Bilbo, Gandalf, and the dwarves are currently residing. And Anderson says it may be that Tolkien intended the phrases to be common speech rendering of orcish curses. Maybe.
That's right. And after that, Douglas Anderson references Appendix F, which we talked about earlier, that bit about they had no language of their own, but took what they could of other tongues and perverted it to their own liking.
Yeah.
Yet they made only brutal jargons, scarcely sufficient even for their own needs, unless it were, I think this is the third time we brought this up now, for curses and abuse.
It's what we all do when we start to learn a foreign language, right?
We go straight to curses and abuse.
Straight to the curse words?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I may not know how to ask, how do I get to the airport in Spanish, but, I can certainly say some terrible things, right? Actually, I can't. I don't know a thing in Spanish.
It's always fun to learn the curse words first.
So they're off the quick way to some place called the Undergate. Now, Hammond and Skull quote Tolkien's unfinished index as saying that the Undergate is an underground entrance to the rear of the Tower of Cirith Ungol, reached by a passage from Torek Ungol. In other words, they're going to head into the tunnel back into Shelob's lair to find the way into the underground of the tower.
That's right. And they're comfortable doing this because they say that she, which has to be Shelob, won't be any trouble tonight.
No, she won't. And the entire group moves, with 4 of them carrying Frodo, and that is where you're going to pick up.
They had taken Frodo's body. They were off. He could not catch them up. Still, he labored on. The orcs reached the tunnel and were passing in. Those with the burden went first, and behind them there was a good deal of struggling and jostling. Sam came on. He drew the sword, a flicker of blue in his wavering hand, but they did not see it. Even as he came panting up, the last of them vanished into the black hole. For a moment he stood, gasping, clutching his breast. Then he drew his sleeve across his face, wiping away the grime and sweat and tears. "Curse the filth," he said, and sprang after them into the darkness. It no longer seemed very dark to him in the tunnel. Rather, it was as if he had stepped out of a thin mist into a heavier fog. His weariness was growing, but his will hardened all the more. He thought he could see the light of torches a little way ahead, but try as he would, he could not catch them up. Orcs go fast in tunnels, and this tunnel they knew well, for in spite of Shelob, they were forced to use it often as the swiftest way from the dead city over the mountains. In what far-off time the main tunnel in the great round pit had been made, where Shelob had taken up her abode in ages past, they did not know. But many byways they had themselves delved about it on either side, so as to escape the lair in their goings to and fro on the business of their masters.
So the orcs have taken Frodo, and Sam just cannot catch up. He just is not able to go fast enough. He keeps following them, even as they reach the tunnel and go in, and there's a bit of a jostle. This actually will allow him to catch up a little bit, which is good. There's a jostle as they file through that opening, as a large group of orcs go through this narrow tunnel. And the four that are carrying Frodo's body, of course, are leading the way.
Right. And Sam's following, and he even draws Sting.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, they're going through the opening at this point. They don't see the blue flicker.
They're looking ahead into the tunnel, trying to make sure they're not walking into a giant, spider.
Yeah, they're not paying attention to possible blue elvish blade glowing behind
them. I
them.
don't think they're thinking about elvish blades right now, no.
Probably not. And as he finally gets to the entrance, the last orc disappears into the tunnel.
Yeah, so in a way he's caught them, but he's a little late. He certainly hasn't caught the ones carrying Frodo's body. He stops, he catches his breath. He is, again, completely exhausted. The text tells us, and I love the way it's put here, he drew his sleeve across his face, wiping away the grime and sweat and tears. It is just a very human, identifiable. You can see this. You can feel this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
There's a real moment where he gets to step into Sam's shoes here as he curses the orcs and then follows them into this darkness. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And then when he gets into the tunnel, it doesn't feel like it did before. It's not dark. It's just, again, this is the power of the ring again. He's gone from a thin mist into a heavier fog. So the darkness just looks like a heavier fog than the slightly less darkness.
Yeah, yeah. And then we get this amazing line. Do not miss this, folks. His weariness was growing, but his will hardened all the more. This is huge. This is such a callback to that heroic code, that northern ethic that Tolkien talks about in the homecoming of Beorhtnoth, Beorhthelm's son. Now, we've done a little bit from that on Tolkien Reading Day, and I think we've talked about it before, probably when we were talking about Húrin because of Overmode. In the introduction to the short drama that he wrote, he talks about the history of the actual event, right, the Battle of Maldon, and the writings that tell us about what happened. He points out that near the end of the surviving fragment, an old retainer, Beorhtwold, as he prepares to die in the last desperate stand, utters the famous words, a summing up of the heroic code that are here spoken in a dream by Torthelm.
That's right. And he then gives us the Old English for that code, which my co-host has generously allowed me to read.
Or forced you to read because I didn't want to try to learn Old English well enough tonight. Could be that.
Either one works.
I would love to.
One man's trash is another man's treasure, my friend. I'm happy to do this.
Well, I'm not going to call Old English trash. I'm just not able to do it. I love it. I can't wait to hear you do it.
You know what I mean, though. I'm absolutely happy to do this.
I know. I knew you'd be excited, too.
Here shall the herdra, herta the chenra, mod shall the mara, the uramayan litlav.
Wow, thank you. That was phenomenal. I've got
you.
Chills hearing you read that.
Thank you.
It translates, for those of you who don't happen to speak Old English, will shall be the sterner, heart the bolder, spirit the greater, as our strength lessens.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love that.
I do too.
And it is so fun to say in Old English.
Isn't it? Oh, it makes me want to learn Old English just so I can say it. And Tolkien goes on to point out that it is here implied, as is indeed probable, that these words were not original, but an ancient and honored expression of heroic will. Then he says that because of that, Beorhtwold is all the more, not the less likely for that reason, actually to have used them in his last hour.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's like a proverb or a mantra almost. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Oh, man.
Oh, such a great, great find. And I love that poem so much.
Oh.
And the essay and the introduction, everything surrounding it.
That is such a fantastic work. And it's one of those that not a lot of people have read, and you really should.
Even among people who have read a lot of the other non-Middle-earth works, that is one that I think fewer people have read, and it is so wonderful.
It really is.
But anyway, back to this text. So Sam is described here as having that kind of a heroic will.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful moment. I mean, it's a blink and you miss it moment, but it's beautiful.
Thing. Yeah, it really is. His weariness was growing, but his will hardened all the more. You really, once you've heard will shall be the sterner, heart the bolder, spirit the greater as our strength lessens, you can't miss that.
Yeah, it's
but
true.
If you haven't read that, you might skip past it and not recognize that callback to that ancient northern heroism. It's just a great little passage. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And again, all the more reason to read this other stuff that Tolkien wrote that's not part of the Middle-earth Legendarium.
That's right.
But back to Sam again. He can see the orcs' torches ahead, but he's just not fast enough to get up to them, is he?
No, he's not. You know, the narrator tells us that orcs go fast in tunnels, but remember, orcs just go fast, period.
True.
You remember last season how quickly the orcs ran with Merry and Pippin, so fast that Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli were having an incredibly hard time keeping up.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
They're just fast.
Yeah, they are. And I think even more so in tunnels. I mean,
they're
they're creatures of darkness.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
They live underground. We're even told in The Hobbit, remember how goblins are cunning with tunnels, right? Aren't we told that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So now we get some more information on this tunnel. We're told that it is the fastest way from Minas Morgul, which is called the Dead City here, into Mordor over the mountains. They, being the orcs, didn't know when it had been made. It was probably thousands of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Sheila was been there for a long, long time.
Yeah, but they had used it, and they'd also created their own network of passages around it, little passages off and around and back into it to help them get through and escape Shelob when they have to.
That's right. Now, in The War of the Ring, we read an original version of this that I think adds a lot of interest. It's a reminder, of course, about the speed of goblins, but keep listening. Goblins go fast in tunnels, especially those which they have themselves made. And all the many passages in this region of the mountains were their work, even the main tunnel and the great deep pit where Shelob housed. In the dark years they had been made until Shelob came and made her lair there. And to escape her, they had bored new passages, too narrow for her growth, that crossed and recrossed the straight way.
That's right.
Clever. So they just used, skinny routes that Shelob could never fit through.
That she's too big to get through.
Right. Smart.
It is. Very smart. And then Christopher Tolkien explains in a footnote that the outline accompanying this passage said, "This tunnel is of orc make and has the usual branching passages." And that survived into the fair copy, where it was subsequently replaced by that in TT.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not going that far down the tunnel complex this time, though, are they?
No, they're not. They're just going to a little side passage that's going to take them back to that undergate that we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are in a good mood.
Yeah.
They're gabbling, yammering, hooting, hollering.
They're gleeful.
Kind of party night for them.
It's an orc party, right? They know they're all in for promotion, or at least they're going to not get killed today.
They found a dead spy. Absolutely. Yeah. They're happy.
That's a win. Yeah. Gabbled and yammered. I love that turn of phrase, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Gabbled and yammered. After the fashion of their kind. I mean, you can just hear it. It's just noisy and crude and just, there's no conversation here. This is just a bunch of noise.
Yep, absolutely.
But that's where you're going to pick up and give us the last reading of the episode.
Indeed, I will. Sam heard the noise of their harsh voices, flat and hard in the dead air, and he could distinguish two voices from among all the rest. They were louder and nearer to him. The captains of the two parties seemed to be bringing up the rear, debating as they went.
"Can't you stop your rabble making such a racket, Shagrat?"
grunted the one.
"We don't want Shelob on us."
"Go on, Goldbag. Yours are making more than half the noise," said the other. "But let the lads play. No need to worry about Shelob for a bit, I reckon. She sat on a nail, it seems, and we shan't cry about that. Didn't you see? A nasty mess all the way back to that cursed crack of hers. If we've stopped it once, we've stopped it 100 times. So let 'em laugh. And we've struck a bit of luck at last. Got something that Lugberts wants."
"Lugberts wants it, eh? What is it, do you think? Elvish it looked to me, but undersized. What's the danger in a thing like that?"
"Don't know till we've had a look."
So they haven't told you what to expect. They don't tell us all they know, do they? Not by half. But they can make mistakes. Even the top ones can.
"Shh, Goldbag."
Shagrat's voice was lowered so that even with his strangely sharpened hearing, Sam could only just catch what was said.
"They may, They've got eyes and ears everywhere. Some among my lot, as like as not. But there's no doubt about it, they're troubled about something. The Nazgul down below are, by your account, and Lugbert's is too. Something nearly slipped.
Nearly, you say,
said Gorbag.
All right, said Shagrat. But we'll talk of that later. Wait till we get to the underway. There's a place there where we can talk a bit while the lads go on.
Shortly afterwards, Sam saw the torches disappear. Then there was a rumbling noise, and just as he hurried up, a bump. As far as he could guess, the orcs had turned and gone into the very opening which Frodo and he had tried and found blocked. It was still blocked. And that's where we're going to stop for this episode in terms of the text. But let's go back to the beginning of that, shall we?
Yes, back to that gabbling and yammering we were talking about.
Gabbling and yammering. I love it.
So we're told that Sam could make out two louder voices that were closer to him, and these are the orc captains who are debating as they're following their troops.
That's right. Back to the always charming Gorbag and Shagrat.
That's right.
Now, Gorbag wants Shagrat to quiet down his orcs on account of Shelob, but, Shagrat dismisses his concerns.
I decline to acquiesce to your request. No.
Not only is Shelob not going to present a danger, and he has a great way of saying that, he points out, your guys are making most of the racket.
Right.
Pot, kettle, kettle, pot. Yeah.
Yep. And then we get this aside that they've closed off the crack to Shelob's lair before.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, what's the point now of trying to do that? We've done it over and over again. She always keeps coming out. Then he mentions Lugberts and how they found something that Lugberts wants.
That's right. And as a reminder, we talked about this back in episode 189. Lugborts is one of the few words we're given in this text that's actually in the Black Speech.
That's right.
Made up of lug, which means fortress or prison, and borts, which means dark.
Now, we also get a variant of borts in the ring inscription, right? The last line there is Ag bursum ishi krimpatul. That bursum is darkness. So burs is dark, bursum, darkness. And of course, that line is in the darkness, bind them.
So if you haven't figured it out, Lugborts just means dark tower, dark fortress. It's Barad-dûr.
Right. It's Barad-dûr.
And this piques Gorbag's interest.
Yeah.
He asks Shagrat what he thinks this thing is. And he expresses his own thought that think it's elvish, but it looks small. It doesn't look dangerous.
That's right. Shagrat, I love him, though. He's a simple guy. We're not going to know until we've had a look, are we? It's kind of the obvious.
Fair enough. But Gorbag keeps pressing. He says, you've not been told what to expect?
Ah.
And then we get, I don't know, this sounds like the kind of thing you might hear in the trenches, complaining about the officers. It's typical of the bosses, they're not telling us what they know.
Yeah, but they can make mistakes, even the top ones, which I'm assuming that's the Nazgul, or at least maybe the very highest of Sauron's commanders. Maybe the mouth of Sauron would also be considered a top one. I don't know, but certainly the Nazgul.
I'm thinking top ones means the Nazgul here. You'd think that, maybe the bosses that they're implying would be like the various officers above them. But then when he says top ones, I'm thinking the Nazgul. It's got to be the ones at the very top.
Yeah. And you know what? That makes sense because Shagrat then says the Nazgul down below are. So
that's right.
I think it's very much a synonym, top ones and Nazgul.
Well, and there's also this moment where Shagrat actually shushes Gorbag, right? And then he starts to whisper. And I think that's because he thinks, you're talking about the Nazgul. Don't do that.
Right.
We know the Witch King has marched out with his army, but there could be others that are still hanging nearby. And then there's a reminder to us from this that we're actually hearing this conversation through Sam, who can barely make out what Shagrat is saying here.
That's what the whispering does for us, right? It reminds us, we're hearing this only because Sam's hearing it.
Right.
Now, Shagrat agrees that, of course, they can make mistakes, but he's super concerned about spies, even among his own troops.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, the top ones are worried. They're troubled about something.
They sure are.
And he means both the ones in Minas Morgul, the Nazgul down below, but also the ones in Lugbors in Barad-dûr.
That's right.
And that's that something nearly slipped.
Well, Gorbag makes the rather strong point that it wasn't nearly. Something did, in fact, slip.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but Shagrat's not going to talk about that now, right?
No, we'll talk about it later. Let's get to where we're going, which is this underway.
Yeah.
And we'll talk away from the boys.
That's
while
right.
the lads go on.
That's right. Let the lads go on.
This is officer talk.
It really is. Yeah, that's right. So Sam watches as the orcs' torches disappear, and he starts to hear a rumbling noise. I've got to say like a doorway, maybe a big boulder being moved into place, and then a bump.
Yeah.
And that's when the door is shut, apparently. He thinks that the orcs went down the way that he and Frodo had last chapter, that exact same spot in the tunnel.
That's right. And just to remind you, this was after they'd passed the source of the malice and the stench in the lair.
Yeah.
And we're told, but almost at once they came to a new difficulty. The tunnel forked, or so it seemed, and in the dark they could not tell which was the wider way, or which kept nearer to the straight. Which should they take, the left or the right? They knew of nothing to guide them, yet a false choice would almost certainly be fatal.
And then later in that passage we read, presently, groping and fumbling in the dark, they found that the opening on the left was blocked. Either it was a blind, or else some great stone had fallen in the passage.
And now I'm starting to think maybe it was both.
Yeah.
It's a great stone that they keep there to block it, to use it as a blind.
Exact.
That rumbling noise tells us this is not a door on hinges. This is
No, it's a boulder
something
being
they've
rolled into
dragged
place.
to block it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just as it was blocked before, Sam finds that it's blocked now.
Yeah.
But his search is going to have to wait.
Yes, it will. Do you know what else makes a rumbling noise followed by a bump? Bartleman bringing us our mailbag.
Yeah, that's a big rumbling noise, actually.
That's
a
right.
heavy mailbag.
So what do we have tonight, Sean?
All right. Well, Valentine T. in Massachusetts asks us a question that we hinted at in the last episode about Sam's invocation of Elbereth. Valentine says, I have a personal theory that I would like to get your thoughts on, and this is in regards to Sam's rather epic and his greatest moment in The Lord of the Rings. I am of course referring to the scene where Sam faces off against Shelob and Cirith Ungol. My pet theory is that Sam was never alone during that moment of the fight, and I mean that quite literally. He goes on then to summarize Sam's heroic charge and Shelob's massive self-own that we saw last time, just sitting on that nail. And then he proposes this theory. Galadriel, using her elf magic, saw this critical moment in the quest and offered an intercessory prayer to Varda through Sam, and Varda answered. Varda literally showed up in the non-incarnate form of holy light and mortally wounds Shelob, thus revenging herself and all the Valar against the last child of Ungoliant for the destruction of the two trees. This is sort of a blink-and-you-miss-it moment, Valentine says. But what do you think? Am I crazy to think that Varda, co-equal to Manwë, literally showed up to save Sam in that moment? Or that those words were Galadriel's words?
Interesting. I mean, we did talk a little bit about this in our last episode, wondering if the other voice that was speaking through Sam was Galadriel, or I think I even thought maybe it was Varda herself, but you made the really solid point that Varda wouldn't need to speak an invocation of herself.
I call upon myself.
I call upon me and myself and I.
That's right.
And I think we landed on the idea that this was really very likely to be Galadriel giving Sam the words to call upon Varda, in essence, speaking through him, since Sam wouldn't know the Sindarin invocation.
Right.
Now, with that said, though, we also talked about the translation of the invocation. I want to bring that here because I think it's relevant to this question. It was in Letter 211, and Tolkien says that it means more or less, O Elbereth Starkindler, from heaven gazing afar, to thee I cry now in the shadow of the fear of death, O look towards me, Everwhite. So it's not really a call for Varda to appear. It's just to look towards the one calling on her. I think that's still significant. I don't think that Varda would have to physically manifest herself here in Middle-earth, even in the form of holy light, in order to intervene. I think she could intervene directly from where she is in Valinor. The light itself in the vial was from the Silmarils, which were, of course, hallowed by Varda, and I think that alone might be sufficient when the light is in its most potent form, fueled by Sam's indomitable spirit. At least that's kind of how I'm reading it. But Sean, what do you think?
I think I'm mostly there with you. I don't know, let's talk this through, because I think there's actually two separate events to talk about here.
Okay.
First is the words coming out of Sam's mouth, which of course are words he does not know.
Right.
And then the second thing is the holy light wounding Shelob. Now, we talked about the words last time, you're right.
Yeah.
And I do still believe that it is not Varda herself putting the words in Sam's mouth.
I agree
because,
with you, yes.
You know, yeah, the invocation is to Varda. If she's listening, she doesn't need to be invoked.
That's correct.
So like we said last time, I believe that this is Galadriel somehow speaking through Sam through the magic of the vial. Now,
agreed.
Does that mean that the vial is kind of a communication device between them? Is she actually able to speak now in the present through Sam? Or has she placed some magia on the vial that responds when spoken to? Because remember, Sam...
Oh, yeah. He calls her name when he grabs the vial. Yeah.
And then the vial does what it does. It's unclear
whether,
maybe this is like a pre-recorded message in the vial.
For help with giant spiders, press number 1. For help overcoming a tower full of orcs, press 2.
Press number 2.
To hear this message in black speech, press 3.
To hear it in Spanish, oprime numero 4.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, sorry, I know that's a really goofy comparison, but like...
No, but I hear you, and I think you might make a point, right?
Is it something that the vial has been
pre-programmed
to do, right. Blessed to do, whatever you want to say?
Yeah.
But regardless of that particular mechanism, Sam is calling upon Galadriel because he does say her name. Mm-hmm. And when he does so, she is able to give him the words to invoke Varda.
Exactly.
This actually makes the invocation a kind of intercessory prayer.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that is consistent with Catholic doctrine. This is the idea that one can pray to a saint and then the saint can then intercede with God to make sure the prayer is granted.
Right.
I think that's what Tolkien is playing with here, is that Catholic idea of intercession of the saints.
I'm with you that far. I can buy the idea that this is Galadriel giving him the words and interceding with Varda on his behalf. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the words are from Galadriel. I think we agree on that. So the second thing is, okay, what's the light erupting forth? Is this actually Varda showing up? I got to say, go not to me, because I'm going to say both no and yes.
Okay. See, I said no, and I think I'm going to stay there, but I want to hear what you had to say.
I know you did say no. I think you're right. I don't think it has to be Varda herself, because it is just light from the Silmaril captured in the vial. But clearly she is called upon here.
Oh, yeah.
And you just now translated the Sindarin invocation. After he says that, with the last line, "Oh, look towards me, Everwhite,"
yeah,
that's when the vial shines brighter, like a white torch in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we, did discuss that according to the text, this is apparently because of Sam's own indomitable spirit. Maybe it's all Sam. But Varda is called upon, so we can't rule out the possibility that she has some role in making this happen. Maybe while she looks at Sam, she is able to make this happen, even though she's not called upon to be there physically.
She's not physically present in the form of the light, but she can maybe enhance that light for him.
Possibly.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
But also, she is the Vala of starlight in general, which means that there's pretty strong possibility that she is somehow present in all starlight, just like Ulmo is present in all the waters of the world.
I struggle with that a little bit, because at least water is a tangible thing. I mean, it's matter and light is not. And so Ulmo can be present in all the waters of the world, meaning he's got a presence in each river and lake, etc. But if she's present in all starlight, that's, I don't know, maybe.
I mean,
I'm not going to say no.
It's a question of, I don't know. This is why I struggle with this, because it's like, is she the personification of starlight? No, not really.
No.
But she is ultimately responsible for all starlight. And
she kindled it. That's true.
When starlight is there, in some sense, she is there. In some sense.
Maybe. I'm also thinking of the fact that, when Tolkien clarified that bit about Starkindler, saying that was a one-time event and that she's not continually doing it. It's not a present tense kindler.
I think all that means is the way to translate that is the one who kindled the stars.
Okay.
I don't think it means that she doesn't have any responsibility for starlight anymore.
I'm not saying she has no responsibility. I'm saying she's not currently kindling any stars. So maybe that isn't her mode of being. I don't know. I like where you're going with it. I'm not entirely sold, but I certainly could buy her, remotely amplifying that light, that starlight, in order to benefit Sam in that moment. I can see that.
Which means that she is there. And I think that's where I'm going with this, is that if she's not there somehow, then why is she even called upon? It kind of...
I'm just thinking the remote control. I'm just thinking she, grabs the remote. Where's the one for the vial? Turn it up.
Well, but that means she's there, right? I mean, she doesn't have to physically be there. She is playing a part.
That's true. When you say there, you don't mean in the pass of Cirith Ungol. I think that's what Valentine means, in the pass.
Well, maybe. But I mean, Varda is a spirit. She's, she can probably be many places at once. I know she's finite. Yeah. She's not infinite. But I think that she doesn't have to be there physically to be playing a role here. I think that's what matters. I think more so than...
I would agree with that. She doesn't have to be there physically. She doesn't have to manifest herself in order to have an impact there. And if that's where we're landing, I'm good on that.
I think, and I kind of think, I mean, you're talking about, the spirits that shaped the world. I'm not sure that they have to physically be in any particular place to have an influence on that place or have an effect on that place. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So maybe we're saying the same thing or something very similar, but we're saying it kind of differently. I don't think she has to be there physically. Yeah.
She is a spirit in a material world, you know?
Well, you caught me off guard with that one.
We got a Sting reference after talking about Sting. So,
we did.
yeah.
We did. So
Spirits in a material
fundamentally, it sounds like we both agree that she is playing a role here.
Just how much of a role is the only question, right?
Yeah.
Is she physically present in the light, or is she causing the light from Valinor to be enhanced in some way?
Because she's not, I agree, she's not the personification of light. She is not the light itself. But
no. But boy, she's certainly acting here. I think
she is certainly acting here. I agree with that.
Every evidence to believe that she's acting.
I agree with that. And that we can definitely agree on.
I love that. That is neat to see an intercession like that on the behalf of poor little Sam. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, do we have time for one more?
You know, I think we do. I think this might be a long one, but we'll see. Kevin H. in Summerhill, New York, writes in and confesses, I didn't know before listening to the PPP that Sam wasn't an original character in the Lord of the Rings storyline. Sam is commonly considered the actual hero of the story. Without Sam, the ring never would have made its way to Mount Doom. Without Sam, Frodo wouldn't have retained his humanity. The ring would have won. Sam is the heart of what it means to be a hobbit. Kevin then goes on to ask a series of questions, and they get a little difficult here. Did Tolkien change his storyline when he conceived of Sam as a character? And if so, what was it before? Then he says, the thought has occurred to me that Tolkien didn't see Sam as the hero of the story. If so, is our modern vision of Sam as hero more due to reading too much into the tale? Are we ascribing modern values to the story? In Tolkien's time, would the master receive the credit for heroism, even though the work was done by the servant? Well, that's a lot of questions, Kevin. Let's see what we can do here. Sean, you want to start out?
A lot of questions and some good questions, too.
I know, yeah.
And I think we can shed some light on this, Kevin, so buckle up. We'll take care of you here.
That's right.
First off, I do need to say that I am sorry, but a full analysis of the textual history of the manuscript, pre-Sam and post-Sam, that is way too big to cover in a single mailbag answer.
That could be one of our Patreon specials, practically.
Maybe, yeah.
Not suggesting that, by the way.
That's like, a couple of volumes of the history of Middle-earth.
Yeah.
But I think we can highlight some of the changes that took place in the story when Sam entered.
I think so.
First of all, Kevin's right. Sam was not originally one of the hobbits that Tolkien created in the earliest drafts of Lord of the Rings.
Correct.
In The Return of the Shadow, we read that it was a Frodo Took that was originally the hobbit accompanying Bingo Baggins on his quest. But we do see a little glimpse of what became Sam in this Frodo Took when Christopher Tolkien explains that Frodo Took is seen as a less limited and more aware being than Odo, who was himself a direct predecessor of Pippin, more susceptible to the beauty and otherness of the elves. Some element of him might be said to be preserved in Sam Gamgee. It was Frodo Took who with bated breath whispered, "Elves," when their voices were first heard coming down the road.
That's right. Now, also in The Return of the Shadow, we read a little section called Queries and Alterations, where Christopher talks about his father stopping work on the manuscript while composing the chapter Many Meetings. And when he does that, he writes 2 pages of notes, including a section where he identifies one of his difficulties as too many hobbits. In that section, we read, at the same time, my father wrote Sam Gamgee in the margin, and to Bingo originally intended to go alone, he added with Sam. Christopher goes on to say, it may be that this is where he first set down Sam Gamgee's name. Then later in Return of the Shadow, in a chapter called Ancient History, which is an early version of what would become the Shadow of the Past, we see Sam again. Sam Gamgee, and this is Tolkien's words in the story, Sam Gamgee, old Gaffer Gamgee's youngest and a good jobbing gardener, was sitting in one corner by the fire, and opposite him was Ted Sandyman, the miller's son from Hobbiton, and there were various other rustic hobbits listening. Queer things you do here these days, to be sure, Ted, said Sam. Now, Christopher goes on to say that there follows in the manuscript the original draft, written very roughly and rapidly, of the conversation at the Green Dragon found in Fellowship, and it was scarcely altered afterwards, save in little details of phrasing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we had to look this up, but I want to make sure people understand jobbing. As you said, he was a good jobbing gardener. That means he was a part-time gardener.
Right.
It's a British term meaning employed to do occasional pieces of work rather than on a regular or permanent basis. I guess kind of like how we consider the term odd jobs, right?
Yeah, that works.
But later in that chapter, we get a glimpse of his admiration for Frodo, who, of course, was still called Bingo at this stage in the writing process. Sam sat silent and said no more. He was due for a job of work in Bingo's garden next day, and was thinking he might have a chance of a word with Bingo, to whom he had transferred the reverence of his dad for old Bilbo.
Oh, nice.
And then at the end of that ancient history chapter that, as you said, became Shadow of the Past, we read this from Christopher. The remainder of the chapter, the surprising of Sam outside the window, and Gandalf's decision that he should be Bingo's companion, is almost word for word the final form, which was reached almost at a stroke and never changed.
Aha. So with all that said, it just doesn't appear that Tolkien changed the storyline much, if at all, with the introduction of Sam. He was introduced early enough in the process that the important parts of the story that involved Sam were yet to be written. So there weren't changes that he needed to make, really. But what about those other questions? I will touch on one real briefly about the master getting the credit when it was the servant who had something to do with it. It made me think of that line at the end of the Rings of Power in the Third Age, when we're told about Mithrandir and the hands of the weak and the little people. And we read this: "For Frodo the halfling, it is said, at the bidding of Mithrandir, took on himself the burden, and alone with his servant, he passed through peril and darkness and came at last in Sauron's despite." So
poor Sam doesn't even get named.
Doesn't even get a name. He's just his servant.
His servant.
But, Frodo only gets that one mention. Frodo the halfling, it is said, and that's it. So I don't know about that, but I'm going to go ahead and have you go from there.
Okay. So going back to those other questions about, Sam being the hero and so forth, we're going to take the easy way out. We're actually not going to answer the questions about whether this is ascribing modern values to the story by seeing Sam the hero, because, well, Tolkien definitely saw Sam as the hero of the story. We know that with certainty.
Yeah.
For that, we can go primarily to the letters, and where better to start than letter number 131.
Glug, glug.
In this letter, Tolkien writes that, "I think the simple rustic love of Sam and his Rosie, nowhere elaborated, is absolutely essential to the study of his, the chief hero's, character."
And that's not all. In letter number 184, where he writes to a real-life Sam Gamgee, he says, "You can imagine my astonishment when I saw your signature. I can only say, for your comfort, I hope, that the Sam Gamgee of my story is a most heroic character, now widely beloved by many readers, even though his origins are rustic."
And in a letter to Christopher, and this is letter number 91, Tolkien adds, "Here is a small consignment of The Ring, the last 2 chapters that have been written, and the end of the 4th book of that great romance, in which you will see that, as is all too easy, I have got the hero into such a fix that not even an author will be able to extricate him without labor and difficulty. Lewis was moved almost to tears by the last chapter." Now, I should point out that the last 2 chapters being mentioned there are Shelob's Lair and the Choices of Master Samwise.
That's right.
And that last chapter is seen exclusively through Sam's perspective, as Frodo is unconscious.
Yeah, we wouldn't get much if we were seeing it through Frodo's perspective.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear that the only person who could be the hero
is Sam.
It's got to be Sam.
I agree. And I've got one last bit here, because some look at letter number 131, in which Aragorn is mentioned before Sam. I have seen some people try to argue that the his, in reference to the chief hero, is calling back to Aragorn. But first, that doesn't make any sense grammatically, because the previous his is talking about Sam and his Rosie. So it's nonsensical to think that somebody like Tolkien would then use the next appearance of the word his, the study of his, the chief hero's character, to mean somebody mentioned in a previous sentence.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit.
That doesn't work. Tolkien was a better writer than that.
Absolutely. I mean, even you're a better writer than that. Sorry.
I'm saying something.
But the real clincher is this little bit that I found on an old Tolkien forum. Apparently, Wayne Hammond and Christina Scull asked Christopher for clarification on who his father meant as the chief hero. And in a post on this forum, they reported, to this, Christopher replied very succinctly that he was certain that the chief hero referred to Sam. And that is good enough for me. Sean?
That's case closed as far as I'm concerned.
Boom. Case dismissed.
Wayne Hammond and Christina Scull heard this from Christopher himself. Yeah. You don't get any more definitive than that as far as I'm concerned.
Sam's the chief hero. Full stop.
So there you go. Viewing Sam as the hero of the story is not a modern reading of the tale at all. It's actually what Tolkien intended.
Absolutely. But folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Still, be sure to join us again next week when Sam is mistaken for a large elf warrior in the last part of The Choices of Master Samwise.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
I've done the same thing.
Easy mistake to make, absolutely. But that is the last chapter-based episode of Season 6. But stay tuned the following week for something special. Now, in the meantime, folks, we want to take a moment to thank the team that helps make this show better. Our research assistants, along with our Barlaman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please be sure to visit us there at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And you're definitely going to want to check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we have provided links for you to get nearly every book we mentioned on the show. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Indeed. And now we want to thank some more really important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. Start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian in the UK, and Ned from Connecticut.
And there's also Jerry in Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Dylan in Australia, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Dorwin in Michigan, Karen in the UK, Zaksu in Illinois, Jim in Maryland, Brian in Texas, Sarah in New Jersey, and June in Ireland. Thank you all, folks, so very much for your support. And everyone listening, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, what you think has slipped past the top ones to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just please still send the question to Barliman for us. Now, Barliman's a lot more reliable lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we will get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.